Oh no, no sploosh. Hold on. Wait, wait. Boom! There, much better. Good morning and welcome back to the Monday edition, obviously, of Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host Anne, and disembodied hands, Quindy, Justin, and John. How are you all today? Yep, there was no sploosh. Boom! That's because I was shooting videos for the Patreon. Hello, hello. Oh, I tried on those mornings, you know. Not too bad, though. Not too bad. Yes, good morning, sploosh. Yes, exactly. Necessary. The necessary good morning, sploosh. Alrighty. This thing again. Well, first of all, we need a brown wash on the feet, and then we'll probably work on the crest. 'Cause why not? No yawns. No yawns. Must get over it. Yes. Okay. Tough love. Got it. Okay, so let's see here. We need, I think, I have to refer to my card of doom. It was russet and brown liner. That's what it is. Yeah. Got it. All right. So now I have to dig out this color. So let's see here. There's our russet brown. And I know my brown liner is hiding over here somewhere. It tends to move. It likes to run around. We could use Rogue Shadow if we can't find it. I may have taken it into the other room to line something. Go figure. Yeah, it's being annoying. It's being annoying and evasive. All right, then Rogue Shadow it is. Be very similar. Yeah, it's totally Monday. Masara! Oh, double sub-anniversary, double sub-anniversary, double sub-anniversary, happy double sub-anniversary. There you are. 24 months. Yeah, David had a lot of coughing last night. He just got back from his trip a couple days ago, and he may have picked up a plague. It is not the plague. It is, he tested. But it's a plague, apparently. At least a coughing type plague. Hey, and a prime resub. 33-month streak is insane. Oh, got out of a work night out by having a coughing fit. David's coughing fit was not spicy lunch. Oh, 2 feet of frozen white stuff. Oh my God. That's insane. There's just too much white stuff in that. All right, so let's put a couple drops of russet brown. 1 drop of brown liner. Actually, we're using Rogue, so I'm actually going to do a couple. My formulation, the way I wrote it down, is very suspicious. I was not very clear in writing this formulation. Don't be me. Kitty appreciates the sub song. Oh, good. We already did leather on it. It's dark purple, Pendrake. Hold on. We already did it though. See, we did. Leather with, I used a purple to highlight it. So actually it matches with the crest in a very dark way. So we already did that. All we have to do is, we have to weather the base coat there of the fringe. I'm not going to spend much time finishing this up. I want to get it done, obviously. There we go. Just getting my brush on sealer all shaken up. There we go. You always want to shake your brush on sealer really well because you want that matting agent to go into solution. You do not want a bunch of it to be sitting at the bottom of your bottle. Otherwise, as you use your brush on sealer will slowly get more matte until it starts to frost. I actually had this happen to somebody who just wasn't shaking the sealer more than like that, you know. It just never got the matting agent into full solution, and so because he didn't, it just frosted on him when he got down to a certain level, when he'd finished like 2/3 of the bottle. Yodi Clearman. Oh, that's good. 46 inches is nice, because then it's like you got snow and it looks pretty, but you didn't get like too much snow. You got enough snow not to bury your doglets. Assuming you have small doglets. Although 6 inches would probably be very, very deep for a Chihuahua, but... Alrighty, so we're mixing this up. A brownish wash to go over our greenish wash. There it is. You can see how translucent it is falling off the surface. That's because of all the sealer in it. And now we need to go over the green bronze parts. Not smaller than a Jack Russell. Yeah, so 4 to 6 inches is a fun snowfall for doglets of that dimension. So let's put it down. We don't mind if it's quite dark, remember? We want it to be this rich tarnished color, so we are okay with the dark wash on metals. In fact, dark wash on metals is kind of the point. The darker you make it, the more any weathering and highlighting you do is going to show up. It makes it much easier to do things like abrasions, you know, like little scrapes and stuff on your metals. If you don't take them down very much, you won't have enough contrast to really show those things. We are going to also go over these our little carrots here, little chevron bits on the armor. If I go over the purple a little bit with this wash, it's not going to be a big deal. Since I left most of the area black, mostly I just want these to not be bare metal. I want to have a little bit of contrast. So that if I do decide to rough up the edges, I can. But when you're doing true metallics and you're trying to get really complex effects, it really is a take it down and then take it up scenario where you want to take it quite dark as you can manage, and then bring it back up, very purposefully using weathering to suggest texture. So we've got a nice wash there. I'm using a ton of wash too here. I don't care if it pools in big goopy gobs. Because like I said, I want it dark. I want to be able to guide it around and have it pool. And have it bring that bronze down in a nice rich manner. Yep, goopy gobs. Yeah, I do not miss wind chills like that. That was my college age existence in Wisconsin. Trying to go to class through that crap. No thanks. Then we're going to get this other side. So really just big blobs of wash. And a big brush to spread them out quickly. Or a relatively big brush. If you use too big of a brush, you're just gonna, the problem with that is it mops up and absorbs all the wash and keeps a bunch of it in the brush, and you might find it hard to actually cover everything because so much of your brush is holding onto the wash. So I use like a moderately large brush. It lets me cover the area. This is also my mixing brush, which is not a coincidence. Since washes tend to go up into the ferrule, I'm gonna use a brush I don't care about much. Having a tip on the brush is not important for washes. But yeah, I'm still like kind of not sure how much extra time I really want to put onto this guy. We've done a lot of this stuff before, so I feel like I'm kind of repeating stuff at this point. But at least he's got paint on him. All of him. He doesn't have any bones material showing. Now I'm just going to kind of look around and find these big areas of wash that are, see that big puddle? Kind of bring those off. I don't mind if I have a big puddle kind of pooling in the recesses down here, but I don't want big puddles necessarily pooling on top of surfaces. Well, we're almost to February, and that will hopefully give us a warmer time after, you know, relatively soon. We only have to like live through another month or so of winter before it starts to get a little warmer, so I'm always happy when it hits February because I know we'll be in March, which doesn't necessarily have great weather in much of the world, but it is definitely turning the corner out of winter. So, all right, that's good. That's good. That's good. If I feel like these little carrots are still like not quite dark enough, I'll actually just repeat my wash over them. 2 washes over metals when your metals are nice and bright is a good level to start work from. It'll darken the surface enough that you can, if you do introduce like scrapes and abrasions, they'll be visible. But again, the darker you take this stuff, I'm also actually gonna hit these little studs. The darker you take this stuff, the more contrast you're gonna get if you try to show that it's like all scraped and scratched up. So if you don't take it very dark, you're not gonna be able to really show weathering on metal. Yeah, I mean, you get winter weather, but you don't have as much consistently cold weather. You get warmer days too. You're not sitting there at -40 until May. I'm just always looking for incremental signs of like warming. And toward the end of February, I'm going to go visit my folks in Arizona, so that'll be nice, and it'll be a little warmer there. I always like going to visit them in winter in AZ. It's nice weather. All right. Boom. All right. He's so big. Like, he's so big. We have to go all the way back. Rawr, he says, rawr. So now his legs match the rest of him, and we can start bringing up some highlights and doing some verdigris and stuff once all of this dries up. So let's grab some purple and just kind of highlight his crest up here. The crest is not like, it's, I don't know, it's hard. It's very, because it's a 3D sculpt, it looks very artificial. It doesn't look a lot like hair. So I'm kind of like going to paint it kind of like spines. There's not a lot of room to suggest hair texture or anything up there. So I will fade the outer parts of it, and I will keep the lower part by the crown where it goes into the helmet. I'll keep that a little darker. So I think, oh, I gotta get these paints out of the way. Wrong paint and stay. I think also my Sticks purple is in the other room. I may have to go fetch it. Although I think I was going with Imperial for some of this. So let's just go with that. I'll mix a little bit of Rogue Shadow into my Imperial. We'll rock that way. Yeah, you pay for it, right? Right, that's why I was going to Arizona to visit my folks in like February, Julie. Because February is gorgeous weather in Arizona. Like end of February, wonderful weather. March, beautiful weather. And yeah, then you have to deal with the summer. All right, I'm going to just go with Imperial Purple, which is our first, you know, the middle of our first purple try. Imperial is a little bit on the cool side of purple. But I really like it. I'm going to drop a drop of water into it. I'm going to mix up some Rogue Shadow to shade it. And then I'll probably use an off-white and also a little bit of like my Driftwood Brown to highlight it to make it fade toward the outer edges, just to suggest age. When I was a teenager working at Six Flags in Wisconsin, we had a May blizzard and the park had to close in May because of snow. Because you can't run roller coasters in the snow. It's not safe. That was the most outlandish, weird freak winter weather I had when I was growing up in Wisconsin. Free day off for me, so I was happy. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to grab some of my purple. I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to probably introduce just a tiny bit. Well, maybe not. I put a wash on this earlier, or I used... Maybe did I? We'll see. I can't tell if I put a wash on it or if it's just like the Sticks Purple Darkness. But, it seems to me, it looks like it's got a little bit of a wash on it, but we'll see. Oh no, bummer. Bad storms then, huh, Chronico? MSP Bones Bright Turquoise. That is a reprint of an HD color, am I correct? I wanted, with Bright Turquoise, I think I was actually kind of shooting for the area of the old Swooping Hawk turquoise from GW. I wanted something that was kind of around that shade. It's very greenish, as I recall. The best way to highlight it is actually mixing in Dungeon Slime. What is your particular question? It's darker and greener, as I recall, than the other stuff. One second. I'm getting derailed. Oh no, I'm derailing. Ah, choo-choo. Yeah, there. Brush on sealer. I want to mix a little brush on sealer with this Rogue Shadow. Just a little. Yeah, you can, I'm sure there are other ways to highlight it. I'm less familiar with Siren Song because I'm less familiar with the new colors. I'm best with the, 450 colors that I originally made and had to mix month after month, year after year. So I automatically reach for those. But yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of other ways to highlight it. Because we already had a blue turquoise, the Ocean Triad was already blue. Remember that HD, some of the point of HD, just like with Bones, was to fill holes in the line that we didn't have in Core, and that I didn't want to do a full triad for. All right, now I want to get some purple and mix it with a little bit of Driftwood to bleach it out. So there's our Imperial. There's our Rogue Shadow. I'm going to grab some Imperial and actually highlight it with Driftwood Brown, which is going to like maybe sound a little weird, but it's the way I roll. When you want to bleach out and mute out a color, add its complement. In this case, it's purple, and Driftwood Brown is a very yellow. You can see how yellow it is, brown. So it actually works to mute purple really well. But yeah, mostly it's that we already had we had those blue turquoises for the Ocean Triad, and I'm actually more of a fan of a greener turquoise, so I chose to do that way. And like I said, I always liked the old kind of Swooping Hawk turquoise, I think it was, from GW for the Eldar Army, and so I was inspired by memories of that, although I didn't set out to match it. I didn't have an example. So if you mix that, look at how that changes color now. It actually goes more toward bruised purple. And then I'm going to mix up just a straight up Driftwood Brown, and when I glaze that over the tippy tops of the crest, it's going to start really looking faded. So you can do things two ways is what you should be getting from this. You can mix the color directly together, or you can glaze the color over it. You're going to end up with similar results, but what aspect you can control, and if you're trying to do a fade, I think that glazing works a little bit more. I think that the effect that it creates is maybe a little more convincing, but that's just me. Turquoise is a difficult color because a lot of people don't buy it. Turquoises and teals are not as popular as blues or greens. People don't know what to do. You can see it in almost every color. They don't know what to do with blue purples. They don't know what to do with red oranges. People in general who are not comfortable with color and working with it are kind of nonplussed by colors that are not just basic colors. Hey, Crowley. So whenever I would put out a teal or an indigo, I would be taking a chance that that color wouldn't sell because of that disconnect. Let's see here. I want to shade down toward the root. So I'm going to use my rogue shadow, and I'm going to put a darker shadow down here. I'll get closer. Yeah, I love them too, but I'm just saying, have fun, Crowley. But that's it. When you talk to just your regular, Joe gamer who doesn't have an art background, who hasn't studied painting much, they tend to reach for primaries and secondaries. They tend not to reach for the splits in between because often they're not sure what goes with them. And it's just not as popular. So yeah, those colors tend not to sell as well. It's why I kept struggling with putting indigos back into the line after they'd get canceled. And that's why everybody, once those paints are released, which I think is March, everybody should be buying black indigo and rich indigo to make sure they stay in the line. Rich indigo is a beautiful and versatile color that can go more purple if you highlight it with magentas and more blue if you shade it with blues and highlight it with blues. It is a beautiful color. All right, I've got my... So if I really want this to kind of be weathered out, I will de-emphasize any bright purple, but I will do a little bit of my Imperial kind of in the middle here, the middle band. And I am, I think, going to line between each of these little bits. Yeah, it's because it's not quite so basic. Actually, if you ever get a chance, if you're interested in color and film, the guy you should talk to is Benjamin Cantor. He is a painter who works in the film industry, and his job is coloring. So he can tell you all about why and hows of how scenes are designed that way. Turquoise and orange is also David's favorite color scheme, or turquoise and red. One of the two, either of the two. Ah, I got a bit green up here. I vertigreed him. Oh well, that's fine. We can work with it. Hey, Cajun Beauty, how's it going? Tonight is steak night here because I don't want to work. Today's the last day of the month and I have videos to edit. So I don't want to have to cook a lot tonight. So it's steak night because steak is fast. Assuming the steaks at Sprouts look good when I go today. So I'm just going to do a little bit of lining. Since the purple is very dark here, lining's not stark. If this was a very light colored crest, if we decided to go with, say, an off-white or something, then lining would be the wrong answer because it would be, at least lining with this dark of a color with rogue shadow would be the wrong answer. But because the purple is so dark, the lining isn't going to be very stark. So I feel like I can still get a fairly natural effect. I'm going to shade the underside of things with this color, the Rogue Shadow. Just bring that in for a shadow. Oh, did you get some interference powder? Is that how you're making the iridescence, Cajun? I don't know, Kariniko. Funny. And for those who didn't know this, color shift paints and stuff like that, interference powders, are not true iridescence. They're made to kind of mimic the effect to our eyes, but it's not actual iridescence. Actual iridescence is light passing through like a crystalline structure. I did discover once a prototype auto paint powder that was a true iridescent. It was actually made by suspending like really clear particles, and it could mimic actual iridescence. But in most cases, it was also incredibly expensive. I got a free sample, but it was expensive, very, very expensive. But yeah, so color shift and interference aren't quite done the same way. This faction insists on meat-only chili because, well, meat and vegetable chili because low carb. The Anne faction. Incorrect, Thormel. Incorrect. Any good Texas chili would turn that around for you. All right, I'm going to have to add a little bit of lightening to this because a little bit of a white or pale color, just because this is the same. You can see that it's the same really on the light and dark scale. It didn't really lighten a lot, and I want it a little bit lighter. That's because Driftwood Brown, even though it is a paler color, doesn't have a lot of white in it. Most of its light color is from yellow, so... whatever, Thormel. Because lots of carbs don't make me feel well, I will die, or not die, by sticking to my Texas chili. So I'm going to use a tiny drop of pure white. I'm not going to do a lot because it's very strong. I was so happy that Texas chili didn't have tomatoes in it, for the most part. My introduction to Texas chili did not have tomatoes. I was so happy because I missed chili. Yes, we know which side of the chili wars Thormel's on for sure. Yeah, tomato-based is right out for me. I can't do anything because it's poisonous to Anne's. Yeah, cocoa and chili is good. I've not done it. I've done cinnamon. That can be interesting too. Venison is what I usually use. Venison and beef, 50-50. Oh, there was a Goroloth finished, huh? That thing is a monstrosity. I mean, he's supposed to be a monstrosity, but they're okay. So now, if we look at our purple and this one, we can see that this is definitely shifted lighter. That's what I want. So, you do pork and beef? Yeah. Let's see, did I get all that? Yeah, I think I did. Great. let us highlight our little crest. And meanwhile, this wash will finish drying. It still has a tiny bit down here where it's still wet. And we can do some highlighting and some weathering and some, you know, stuff. We can do the stuff with the feet. Anybody who knows beans about chili knows that chili has no beans. Chili in Wisconsin was always tomato based with beans. And that was fine before tomatoes were poisonous to me, but once that kicked in and my tomatoes had a bad reaction with Anne's, then I was like, oh well, I guess I'm never having chili again. And then I moved to Texas and got like exposed to Texas chili with no tomatoes, just peppers and onions and meat. And I was like, hey, this is it. I do love venison chili though. All right, so I'm going to mostly hit the upper areas here since I imagine that this guy would have some very dirty, you know, it's not like they wash his little crest, right? Yeah, I don't know, Krios. I don't know how it became, I mean, maybe because when people couldn't afford meat, they used beans instead. That makes sense to get the protein. And they're calories too, you know. So if you don't have a lot of money, but you need calories, that's one way to do it. So I'm mostly going to highlight just up on the top edges. When I do the fade though, I'm going to put that over the entire thing. So this is what you could say an initial highlight on the parts that are sticking out, the different strands of his crest. And you could use the side of your brush to do this, but I like to do it a little more precisely than that, so that's why I'm taking the time. Haha. That's right. Yes, you fall on that bullet for me, Kerniko. Just so I can keep my low-carb, tomato-less existence. Definitely the best existence for me. Alrighty, so now I'm going to actually add a little bit of this to my driftwood brown and see. This is, now the problem we've got now is if you look at these two colors, the driftwood brown and the and this color, they're very similar. So I think what I'm going to do is do my glaze now of the driftwood over the whole like upper part of the crest here and see if I like it, and then we'll go and repeat it on the other side if I do. I have a lot of Patreon stuff to do today for my paint along tier. I have a Patreon for those who do not know, although many of you are my supporters and I thank you. But we're about to start at my $15 tier. We're about to start 2 new paint along models. So I need to finish up the last one. I'm really excited to start the 2 new models. We're going to do a 28 and a bust. So you see how this is pooling in between these strands, right? So when you're glazing an area with a lot of texture, you really do need to wash out your brush, wick off, you know, squeeze it out or dry it off a little bit, and come back in and take those puddles out of there. Because glaze is definitely not going to act very well for you if you leave them. This is definitely broken paint. Or you can just make sure that you use a little less of it, but because you're going over an irregular surface, it will tend to fall into the cracks. Robin, we are doing Marika, Guardian of the Sea. So Marika with her trident and lots of giant monster tentacles. And it's actually posted, I believe. If it isn't posted, I'll be... And then this one from... This is the bust from Big Child. But yeah, it's not like you have to rush out and buy anything, because obviously once I post the videos up, they're there forever, and it takes us a while to paint through the entire model. But I am super excited to start those. I think we're going to be doing the Marika with bronze armor. If she's got like turquoise armor in the original art. So once again, I'm going to be going in and fading out this crust a bit. See how that's creating kind of that. And if I want to fade it in, I'll take my damp brush and kind of pull it down. And then I can come back over here and squeeze the water out of my brush and pull any excess out of there. Because you don't want it to dry and like rings and leave little artifacts up on your top surfaces. So see how that fades now? You can actually see it a lot at the front now because I've done a couple of layers. Yeah, it's driftwood glaze. But yeah, she's very elaborate and she's got a lot of armor. So yeah, we'll be doing, I think I like the idea of bronze armor. We can still use some turquoises and teals then. Or blues or whatever we want to. All right, so a little bit more to weather out and kind of fade out the color on the outer part of this. It takes a while to build up a little bit of the fade, but it looks cool and I like it. So, and then if we feel like we've lost a little bit too much of our purple, we can come back in and we could even glaze with a bright purple to bring it back in. But I do want this guy to look kind of weathered, and I think enough of the purple has stayed that we're okay. Alrighty, now I do want to do an additional highlight, so I'm going to probably take some of my driftwood and add off-white to it, probably bleached linen. Any off-white will do, really. Another good one that would work would be Pathfinder Cairnstone, and I have that actually right here on my desk, so I'll grab that. I really do like this color a lot. It's kind of a grayed out, almost a greenish beige. I really like it. And it's good for this kind of application where you just kind of get that faded out look where you wouldn't necessarily go to pure white. You just go for something off like this. But yeah, so we're starting our new paint along this I'm finishing up our old one this month. That would be Tara, which was a bombshell model. This is, I'm finishing up just a little bit of base work here. But yeah, so my Patreon is Patreon. Oh, I just realized we totally missed part of this mini. Oh well. Patreon.com/paintingbig is where I am. And yeah. If you are interested, come on over. Been getting actually a lot of new patrons recently. I'm really happy about that. Hopefully everybody is having fun. I'm going to come in and again put that dark color down the root on the other side. And then I'm painting a little bit of the bright color kind of in the middle, just to keep a little bit of that vibrant purple. And then we'll fade out all the rest. No, not at all, Dezel, because it takes so long. Like when we do paint-alongs, I do the entire model, so it can take 6 months, 7 months, because I only do a paint-along video. I was doing 2 a month, but now we're splitting it, so that the people who like 28s and the people who want to do busts they both get something. So yeah, the paint along we've done I've actually just sold it, but we did a Dragonkin Rogue from Dark Sword, and we did that Tara Tara, the Sword Mistress or Blade Mistress model from Bombshell. But it took us, it takes us months to do them, to finish them. Because I have to do every step by step so that people can follow along. And I try not to make my videos be tremendously long because most people don't have that long to paint. So it takes us, when we start a new paint along, it's exciting because we usually have been working on the other model for at least 6 months. So I'm interested to see how this goes doing both 28 and a bust. The bust is going to take a while, obviously, because it's big, but she's also a little bit simpler. She's not as elaborate, so it's taking some of my driftwood and popping it over the top here. What was that, Pendrake? I didn't get it. Oh, iridescent, pearlescent, and color shift paints. You can't get iridescent. That one powder that I found was the only true iridescent on the market. It was over $600 per ounce, and I doubt any studio is using it. I think it was a prototype for cars. Real iridescent involves crystals, essentially light passing through crystal. That's how you get that rainbow effect as the light shifts over a surface that's curving. Pearlescent is just like white flake in a, like white shiny flake in a colored paint or in a white paint. So it's just essentially you're making a pearl color where it's metallic, but it's a colored metallic. It's usually softer and not as shiny as some metallics. And color shift is usually a dual chrome flake. And I don't remember exactly how color shift works, but I believe it's 2 coatings that vary depending on the angle of the light. So you're just, it's actually got, that's why all color shift paints are a particular color. A true iridescent goes the gamut, like of the rainbow, or, you know, at least as much of the rainbow, depending on how much variance you have in your surface. But color shift is very much like usually a dual chrome, where it goes from orange to green, or it goes from green to blue, or it goes from blue to purple. That, by my understanding. Keep in mind, I didn't work with them very much. I experimented with one and didn't think we could. It just didn't give me as fine of an effect as I wanted. The flake was a bit coarse, and I wasn't a fan. So Reaper didn't pursue it. Plus, it was impossible to get coverage. That's the thing with color shift, is that if you want that color shift effect, you will not have coverage. It is a transparent paint, and it's meant to be put on in successive layers and built up. Whereas a pearlescent paint, you can put on usually just 1 or 2 coats and you're good. It's just a normal, pearlescent is a normal metallic. Same flake, different color. Hello, Scrying. How's it going? Fading out the top of the crest here. I think I'm going to go back and get a little bit more on the top here. This is me taking straight up driftwood brown now, and driftwood plus a bit of cairnstone, and bringing in a highlight that definitely has no purple in it up at the very top. So that will complete our faded out look up there, as that area is more likely to be receiving the full brunt of wind and sun and rain and all of it. So it's the most likely part of the crest to be faded. And we'll go over the top as well. Yeah, color shifts work better on big areas, either big areas on small models or bigger models. I always say that if I ever did Tyranids again, I would be using color shift, because I think that, especially with the bug carapace theme, it would be perfect. And a lot of those models are bigger, and so that would give a lot more room for the color shift to be apparent. So if you're on my Patreon, I think it's at the $10 tier, there is a video on color shift paint and doing some interesting underpainting with it. I always felt that that was a good use for it, potentially, because it is so see-through. So when you have something and it seems like a detriment, think about how you can flip that and flip the script and make it a positive. All right, let's get this figured out. Yeah, so I can use the edge of my brush up here, but it doesn't give me great effect. So I think I'm going to go through it. I'm going to go over it with this lighter purple color. I'm going to do kind of a glaze, I think. So I'll put this on. I'm going to put some water on it. So when you do put paint down too thick for a glaze, you can always just drop water onto it. The challenge with doing a glaze on this area is that it's very textured, and so it is going to pool. So you do want to rinse out your brush, come back and grab it, otherwise it is going to dry weird. Now up here, it drying weird might not be a huge detriment because it's so pebbly. The surface is so pebbly, so if it looks a little odd, chances are no one's going to notice. It's not like where you have a cape or something where if you thin your paint too much you get these huge coffee stain marks. This is kind of what I call speed glazing, because I'm just brushing the paint over the surface and then coming back and kind of using a damp brush to pull it off, but leaving a residue. It works on very textured surfaces where you don't need an even coat, but it will not work on smooth surfaces. I love lamb meatloaf, but it's too high calorie, so I avoid it these days. I allow myself lamb meatballs, and that's about like as close as I get to meatloaf. I actually thinking of making Italian wedding soup this week because I have a Parmesan rind, and thanks to having a duck over the holidays, I have duck broth. So duck broth and pork meatballs and fennel and spinach and yum, 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 yum. Good stuff. And Parmesan rind. Parmesan rind is actually an integral part of that flavor. I love duck. And David has gotten really good at like totally deconstructing a bird after I roast it, so we get like all possible meat is removed from it. I was very impressed. He goes at it surgically. He watched his dad do it to the Christmas bird that we roasted, and now I can be sure that we actually get a fair amount of meat off of roasting a duck. I was shocked. I don't remember, Pendrake. That's a question for Google. It would seem to be logical that it was indeed a wedding soup, or it would not be called that. But logical things are not always true. So I don't know. I think it's based off of a soup that we saw on the chef show, I think. I just decided to reconstruct it because it sounded really, really terrifically good, and I always liked Italian wedding soup. I do it without pasta. If David wants pasta in his soup, he has to make it himself and put it in the bowl before we spoon the soup over it. Pasta is otherwise a popular ad in the soup. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe a linguistic origin thingy. I don't know, but it's tasty. So. And hey, I actually contributed to the soup conversation. Which otherwise I don't do a lot. I do a lot of stews, especially in the winter now. It's definitely when I whip out the beef stew and the lamb curry cinnamon lamb stew and the chili and all of that. And the curries. A lot of these things I make a lot more in the winter. There. That's got a nice, like, kind of faded out look to it now. I like it. Getting a little bit more on here. There. And let's get up to the top here and make sure that we bring in some of that faded color at the bits that are showing through. Ah, married soup. Interesting. So there we go. So it is linguistic departure. Good to know. And yes, going and doing all these little things individually instead of just like dry brushing or doing, you know, a side brush or something like that is, you know, it can be monotonous, but it's also a great brush control exercise and a good paint consistency exercise as well, because you're going to have the proper paint consistency to avoid flooding this area. And you're going to have enough paint on your brush as well, or little enough paint on your brush as well to avoid the train wreck of runny paint. Hello, Lady Nim and Gurgi. Wow, long time. Some names I haven't seen chat for a while here today. So I'm taking a little bit of my kind of bruised purple color that I made from mixing the Imperial and the Driftwood, and I'm adding some of this highlight that we mixed with the Driftwood plus the Pathfinder Cairnstone. I'm kind of smooshing it together to get this little purple mauve kind of color here, and that's what I'm using to highlight. Yeah, Parmesan. Yeah, I have a really nice Parmesan rind that's been sitting in the fridge for a while. That's why I want to make the soup so I can use it. Sadly, a lot of the cheaper Parmesans don't come with a good rind, so I have to get the real stuff. And around here, the only place they seem to have that is Whole Paycheck. The actual Parmigiano Reggiano on the wheel with the thick rind. He lives, yes. Yeah, I'm happy about the new year. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys, exciting news. I engaged, it's on the writing front, Anne's writing front, so a slight diversion here, but I engaged a professional editor. I decided to go ahead and pay to have a pro look at my work. So I finally got my edits back on my first book, and I'm going to dive into them today to see how I can improve my book. It's going to be, it's that scary thing where you get feedback and you know some of it's going to be harsh, but it'll help you get better. So yeah, it's pretty cool. This is the last step. Well, that and if I'm going to decide to self-publish the book, to indie publish it, this is the last step, is getting a cover artist and doing layout. But this is as far as the writing goes, it's the last step. So that's cool and exciting. It's the first time I've ever worked with a professional editor. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I got this editor referral from one of my favorite writers from her blog, so I'm pretty happy. And it turned out that she actually is an editor for my genre and enjoys my genre, so she actually is a great fit that way. So yeah, I'm very, very curious to see what she thinks I can improve on. It'll be a good experience for me, because we all tend to get a little bit defensive when we've got our creative stuff and we ask for feedback and somebody really criticizes part of it and we're just like, but you know. But it's good to get in practice of taking constructive feedback if you really want to get better. Understand that it's not an attack on you. It's just a, hey, you could do this, you could try this, you know. This could be a way to get better at what you love. So try to disassociate yourself from the work, because the work is not you. They're not judging you. When we give you feedback at ReaperCon, we aren't judging you. We're trying to be objective and find ways that you could explore your painting a little bit more. Same thing with writing. Oh, Robin, my book, it is a young adult epic fantasy it's set in a world based on Norwegian folklore. So I essentially created a fantasy world that's all based around the Norwegian folktale cycles. And it's about the Bear Kings and the fate of their house. So white bears being a common thread in Norwegian folktales. So I'm very, very happy with the first book, actually, and I'm excited to get it to where I really feel like it's the best it can possibly be. I'll probably do it. I mean, I'll probably do ebook and print, eventually print, if I publish it myself. Technically, I'm being held up by the fact that there is actually a professional New York agent that has my book right now and is looking at it and considering me. I'm kind of getting frustrated. I'm kind of like, dude, can you just reject me and we can move on? At first you're happy because an agent asks to read more of your work. And then you're just like, you know, dang it. So right now I'm just like kind of, I held off submitting more because I got the edits now. So I'm still going to fill out. I'm going to finish what I said I was going to do, which was to submit to 100 literary agents. 100 fancy New York literary agents. And then once I've collected my 100 rejections, then I can independently publish the series. So I've spent all this time that I've been submitting. I've spent all this time also researching how to be a smart indie publisher. So yeah, I've learned a lot about marketing. It's pretty fascinating, actually. But yeah, I don't know, like, as far as publishing online for free, that's kind of not what you want to do necessarily. You can make your first book free on, like, Kindle and other stores, and I may do that when the second book is out. Because it's a good thing to get people into your series to make it available. But I don't think I'm going to make it online available other than through Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Amazon. Those are the big ebook markets. Oh, and Kobo for Europe. But yeah, I'm still working that out. Like I said, the agent still has the stuff. So all right. Hey, look, guys. It's all fadey and stuff. See? We've got a nice, it's lighter on the top. We could even bring that up a little bit more if we wanted to. Well, that's a funny answer because I have several names. Because, like, I'm Ann Forster in my mini painting world, in my art world. I still use my maiden name. And then my first married name is the one that I'm probably going to publish the book under, which would be Ann Becker or A.E. Becker. And then when David and I get married, I'm going to change it again. So it's like my real name at that point becomes a pen name. Because life is weird. Life is weird. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Yeah, I always wanted to be like an initials author. Iffy. Actually, some of my favorite, I mean, J.K. Rowling, C.J. Cherryh, C.S. Friedman. There's so many like awesome female writers that use like the double initial, and I always kind of liked it. Also, frankly, it makes you harder to find, and this is not a issue for any writer that is not terribly popular, but when you do become popular, you do have fans who try to find you. And that makes me a little uncomfortable, so I would have used a pseudonym anyway. I don't mind having signings and inviting my fans to come find me, but I really don't want fans to show up on my doorstep unexpectedly in my private home. And I've witnessed that happen to Germ, and he, of course, is a very famous writer, and I'm probably not going to be nearly that well known. But it happens. And so for your own privacy, pen name. Pen name's the way to go, especially, I hate to say this, but especially if you're a female. Doesn't it, though? Well, my middle name is Elizabeth, so I'm named after illustrious British queens, apparently. All right, so I lightened up with another glaze. I lightened up and faded out the top more, so you can see kind of the transition there. If it goes a bit darker when it starts to go away from the light, and then actually I want to bring up the tail a little bit more because the light is hitting this, so I do want to bring that up a little. But yeah, so I don't know. And then, but the thing is, I also want to write some urban fantasy, so I'll probably vary up my name a little bit and use like just Anna Becker or Ann Becker at that point, or Liz Becker, some variant of my writer name. One of the writers, the indie published writers I follow, does that kind of thing. She uses her, initials with her last name for her fiction, and then she uses her actual name for her nonfiction. So yeah, that would be funny. I mean, okay guys, it always feels weird when your worlds cross. So I've got 3 worlds, and my worlds are dogs, miniature painting, and writing. I've got 3 worlds. I have 3 sets of friends. I have 3 sets of social media. I have definite worlds. And every once in a while, one of those worlds crosses. Like, one of my miniature painting friends is also an illustrator. So I emailed her to see if she was open and had time to do book cover. And it felt so weird to like cross the worlds. So like, it totally is a thing. It's so odd. Yeah, I mean, I think 2 pen names, if you're doing 2 genres, like if you're doing kids and adults, I mean, people like Brandon Sanderson can get away with like, using just Brandon Sanderson. He uses his normal name for his young adult. But I think if I'm doing a very different feel, like my epic fantasy definitely gets to be A.E. Becker, and my urban fantasy, which is a lot more informal and a lot more fun and a lot more irreverent, gets to be different, because readers have expectations when they pick up your book, right? When you buy a book by X, your favorite author, you're expecting a certain kind of reading experience. And if it's very different, you're going to be kind of maybe turned off, or you're not going to be like, hey, what? I wasn't expecting this, right? So I think that multiple pen names are the way to go. Thank God we don't have these problems in mini painting, right? Oh, God. Yeah, it is funny, though, when you have, like, when I have dog friends who find out that I do miniatures and they also do miniatures. It's so odd. And then one of these days I'm going to have dog friends that also do miniatures and read my writing. And that's just going to be weird. Like that Inception moment, where all the worlds, like, fall into each other. It's like, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Painting the dogs and training the minis and then blogging about it. Oh, I'm sure. Like, the thing is that Becker is such a common last name, but that's part of why I like it as a pen name. Because, like I said, it makes you harder to find. Guardian ferrets. Everybody needs guardian ferrets. Oh, that's cool, the Cajun, yeah. There's a Facebook group. I don't have it right here, but there's a Facebook group, like, for fantasy art that my artist friend gave me that where essentially writers do get on there and essentially say, I'm looking for this kind of artist for a cover for this kind of book, and then you essentially can contact them and send them your portfolio and stuff. So look around on Facebook for that. I think it's SF and Fantasy Artists, but or something like that, but I don't remember. Oh, I have to compartmentalize Pendrake so much. Yeah, I've told you guys the secret because you're like Anne fans. I don't mind if you know. Like, there aren't that many people who watch the stream. And I guess if any of them want to creep out on me, they're already coming to ReaperCon. It's so sad. Oh, dear. No, not for your visual art. That's not part of the stream, Kajin. There might be a place to put it in, like, off topic in the Reaper Discord, though. I'm not sure about that. What do you think, Quindy? Is that a thing? I don't remember, and I'm not going to look it up right now, Shadow Raven. She messaged it to me so I could find it. But she said that she herself uses it and reputable artists use it, so she was willing to recommend that I go there and look around. All right, so I'm just going to darken the shadow here under the foot to remind myself that I want that area to be dark when we start doing the mosaic. So it's kind of underpainting with dark. This is the opposite of underpainting with light like I usually do. But I want to establish a shadow if I'm going to do these mosaics. I don't want to forget. I don't want to put a ton of time painting the mosaics in the shadow area. I want to kind of fade them into shadow and then pick it up again on the other side. So kind of just roughing in a shadow here for this guy. Hi, Campbell. Glad that you like him. It's getting there. We're working on the crest. We just faded out his crest a lot today, and we've got all the verdigris done on the upper part, but we haven't done the verdigris and highlights on the legs yet, or the little bit of the metal on the skirt. So still have a little bit of to do, but I think we'll probably be able to finish that next stream. Yeah, but there is such a thing as the fact that nobody knows who I am in the book world at all. So, like, this is going to be the very obscure stream where they can figure it out if they really want to. I don't expect to be, like, super famous, so I doubt it's going to be an issue. And also, even though I told you guys that that's what I'm doing, I can always change my mind. So, nothing is set in stone yet. I'm not actually published. And then there's the when you actually get published and your book bombs, and so you have to actually change your entire pen name and build a new identity. Sadly, that's a thing. So I'm gonna darken down a bunch of this. I'm using the rogue liner, and it's almost a heavy wash. I'll show you guys. I'll get a little closer. Hold on. Let me just block this in a bit. Boom. So you can kind of see how it's kind of a heavy wash, and you can still see the little mosaics coming out, and you get the sense of some detail there. So as I'm working on a mosaic design, then I'll extend it a little bit into this area, but I won't get as good, like, it won't be as bright when I put it over this dark area, and that's on purpose. I want the shadow to really make the colors kind of fade out a bit in the shadow area. So that's done on purpose. Oh, I know. I haven't thought of design crows. I honestly didn't even know if I was going to finish this model because I'm just like, I'm met on it at this point because I've been working on it for so long. It's so huge. So I am not certain about what mosaics. I will do a very simple pattern. You do not want to do the Pompeii mosaics. You do not want to do a lot of representative art here. Little fishies are okay, but anything that is elaborate or distracting or too recognizable as an interesting shape is a problem. And the reason for that is that it distracts from your model. Do not make the mistake of putting the highly intricate mosaic floor with the super awesome lion design down there. That's immediately going to make everybody look at your mosaic, and then they'll go, oh yeah, your golem's okay. So when you're doing this stuff, the place to use an intricate mosaic floor is in a diorama, where the setting is part of the action. And in that case, you can use the mosaic floor to make exciting things, you know, that are visually happening in between the action of the actual characters and what they're doing. So, and I would still, even in that case, I would still kind of fade out and glaze out the mosaic floor so that it's a little bit less, it wouldn't pop. You don't want it to pop. You still don't want people staring only at your floor. So always be cautious on that. I mean, except that it is actually sculpted as a mosaic floor. Like you can see that it is actually mosaic. And so doing a simple arc or 2 double arc pattern is just fine. And that's probably what I'll do. Yeah, scale kind of dictates what will register. Yes. I can make any pen name I want. It's just, what do I want to publish under, Twisted Oma? You just want to pick a name that kind of works with your genre. Like when CJ Cherry first published her science fiction books, her last name actually is Cherry, like the fruit. Her publisher was afraid that everybody would think she was a romance writer, so they put an H on the end. Because she was a science fiction author, not a romance writer. So it's funny, but weirdly, there are expectations. Alrighty. Aren't you glad we don't have to deal with any of this crap in miniature painting? So there we go. We've got a shadow laid down. Let's actually start putting in a little bit of dark green verdigris, blocking in where we want it on these lower areas, and then we'll be well along. Yeah. But you can see that it's like tiny little mosaic patterns, and they're kind of curving too. So I can totally do a wave kind of pattern, just like 1 or 2, and that'll be fun. And it'll be simple. It won't be intricate. It won't be nearly as intricate as he is. And so I think that a simple arches or waves pattern will work just fine. Yes, indeedy. So dark green. I think we were using a brighter green over here. And I was using more of an ancient oaky color there. I think I'll use ancient oak and a bit of pine. Let's do a combo. Where's my pine green? There it is. Beautiful colors. So ancient oak is a little bit more grayed out and blued out, and this is more vibrant dark green. The pine green is more of a vibrant dark green. So I'm going to actually mix the two and get kind of something in the middle. Hello, One Feel Guy. He's coming along. He is not like he's cool, I guess. I don't know. I've been working on him too long, so now I'm like, when will this be done? Yeah, I know. I just decided to keep going, as long as I'm not actively hating the work. So let's get some dark green going on and stipple in some verdigris on the legs, and that will set us up well for our next stream with this guy. Oh, and tomorrow is Hairfolk. You'll never be able to paint Space Marines with that moniker. Change it at once. That's awesome, Carnico. Oh, dear. But I want to paint Space Marines under the pen name or the paint name of Lillian Everfloof. How dare you tell me I can't? So I'm going to throw 2 drops of water in there, and I'm going to see how thin. I want this green to be a little transparent, because I don't want to just have huge blobs of green. I want it to look like it's coming up from the brown in the cracks. So I want it a little bit thin. That's a little bit too thick still. 1 more drop of water. And to make sure you guys can see the color that I'm working on there. Yeah, there you can see it. So it's a really rich dark green. In other news, I spent some time talking with the breeder of my future puppy yesterday. I'm all excited. I'm allowing myself to be excited because I may have a puppy within the next 8 to 9 months. So now it's time to allow myself to... I bought a dog item, the first dog item that I have bought since Kiri passed away. A Lillian Everfloof. It has to be a very floofy cat. So let's take this green and we're going to stipple it down into the areas where we want the verdigris to come up. And remember, that's going to be wherever water pools on the model is where the green is going to start growing. Yes, puppy hype. Puppy hype. I don't know if I can trust David to name the dog, though, to help name the dog. His ideas so far have been fraught with peril. Although the breeder thinks they're awesome, and so this worries me. All right, so we're just going to stipple a little bit here, because in these grooves would be where green is going to pool up. In between all of these areas, this is all going to catch water. On top of this groove here and a little bit below it, because it has a bit of a groove, like it goes down into the metal here. There's a dip in the metal. Yeah, I'm looking into some new training methods. I did a good job raising my last dogs. They were very good dogs, but in retrospect, I could improve. Like I could there was just some stuff that I felt like I never really gave them a firm foundation in. I really want to have a dog with just a really dependable recall so we can go off leash. And I've never managed that, so I'm looking into new training methods. And things have come so far with canine behaviorist stuff. I feel like there's a lot out there now to give you a good foundation with a new puppy. So I'm excited. Reading books and being excited. David wants to name the puppy after Cerberus from the Hades game. That's not fraught with peril at all, naming your dog after the Hound of Hell. No, not at all. What could go wrong? I mean, Cerberus is awesome in Hades. Don't get me wrong. It's my favorite part of the game is Cerberus. But this does not mean we need to name our puppy after a hellhound. This is kind of my fault because my kennel name is Sparta. And so I try to name my dogs after Greek mythology specifically, or mythology, or history. So this is kind of my fault in that way. But he would think of that. Doing a bit more stippling in here. This is also a time where if you have a big open space like this and you want to break it up a bit, where you can take your washes and just kind of stipple in some texture. And again, create more dark layers where you can build up metal. Ah, yeah. Yeah, our first dog was King Leonidas of Sparta. That was Leo's original registered name. Leo for short. So I always like to meet the puppy before I name it, though. I like to have kind of some names in mind, but I feel like I always want to see the personality of the animal before I name it. So I'm really shading down back here around this little flower plant design to make it really dark back there under the leg, because there isn't much light going to be getting back there. So, and here too, between the feet here, these indents here, these can also get darker. So working with the washes that I originally just put haphazardly over the surface, now I'm targeting areas with the washes. specifically to make them darker. That's the one I started with, crows, but I'm more interested, I've had a lot of different temperaments of dogs now, and one of them was reactive. And I want to give this new puppy a really good grounding in just how to relax and not be anxious in strange circumstances and around strange dogs and stuff like that. So I'm reading a book by an author who actually started out kind of specializing in helping people with fear issues and anxiety in their dogs. So an eye-opener too. It's very interesting. This particular book is written more for the performance audience, but still good tactics. I don't think I could deal with myself if I had a dog named Fluffy. Yeah, we'll see. Like, if I get the puppy right before ReaperCon, I'm pretty much going to have to drive for ReaperCon and bring the puppy with me. I know I can find puppy sitters. But if the puppy is not comfortable with huge crowds, then I'm not going to force the puppy to be at ReaperCon. I'll probably see if my ex can keep an eye on her. All right, so essentially using this wash again with the Rogue Liner, or Rogue Shadow. I keep calling it Rogue Liner, but that was really what it is. I'm going to do things like bring out these little toenails on his feet. Kind of hoping the puppy comes after ReaperCon, though. I'd rather not have the distraction at the con. Angry Manga Ninja. Awesome. See, that's a proper name. Kind of makes sense for cats to give them angry ninja names. You know, cats are kind of like ninja-y anyway. My last cat was named Pan, which was both for the Greek god and also because he was like a panther, so Pan was short for panther. There we go. So that's getting a little bit better. I want to make sure and introduce shadows where I want them. This is where the targeted wash thing is where you can bring out some nice detailing. And since the wash is kind of translucent, you're just pretty much layering with your wash. And you can also line with the wash. It's going to be a pretty subtle line, but you can do it. So that's making that foot come out a lot more crisply. Spices for your kittens. Oregano! I think spice names sound pretty cool. A cat named Oregano would be pretty awesome. Or cumin. Cardamom. Cardamom would be a great cat name. Or coriander. Cory for short. Cardamom is my favorite spice right now. So again, just bringing in some of this wash, and we're putting a bit more targeting on it. Then bringing my greens in. And this takes a while. Like, you could decide that this takes too long. Also, don't worry if you've got boundaries like this. Because if it's an area you're going to bring highlights over, you can absolutely blend that in with actual metallic. Layering it over the top, which is probably what I'll do. I think cardamom is... If I ever get a cat again, I'll have to name it cardamom. Or coriander. Cilantro! Be divisive. Some people hate the cat. Some people love the cat. And that would be totally calling your cat silly for short, so I hope it's a silly cat. But yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know what our puppy's name. We'll have to start more seriously considering new puppy names when it gets closer. Like, I'll start seriously considering it once pregnancy is confirmed. Then I'll at least know that probably we'll have a puppy. We won't really know until the puppies are born, because if they're all boys, then I won't be getting a puppy. I want a girl dog. Bring in some green around this. Pretty much anytime you've got a design that's in relief on the model, there's going to be some moisture that's pooling if it gets on the model. It's just going to hold itself in place because of surface tension. Alrighty, so yeah, so everywhere around here, green, green, green. A little bit of green here, 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 here. If you think you get too green, you can always de-emphasize it by taking some brown over it. You can see the green showing up here. We'll definitely have green between the toes. But it doesn't have to be a really bright green. The base of verdigris, the dark color where it starts to shift from the brown to the green, is actually quite dark and usually a little bit desaturated. It depends on the surface and it depends on what's caused the corrosion. It can vary quite dramatically, but in general, bronze and copper tend to go brown and then come up green. And so the green tends to be quite dark. I mean, it's a 50-50 chance all the time, so it's rare, Pendrake, but it can happen. I mean, obviously, the smaller the litter, it's probably, you know, more likely to happen because you have fewer dice rolls. I do remember a litter that our breed founder, Tina, had that was 7 puppies, all girls, and that was very unusual. I don't know. I think that renaming an animal in its new home sometimes can give it a fresh start. Depends. But I would not be, if I wanted to rename an animal, I would totally rename it. It's just teaching them a new name that means, hey, you. So bringing in a lot of green right around the foot because this is all going to be probably pretty heavily verdigrised. So, and we are about time to... You name them all after warlords. That makes sense. Yeah, cichlids are crazy. Yep, I was about to say, this is about the time to end the stream. Boom, boom. Let us look. Look at our progress for the day. Look, the feet are starting to look like they actually belong to the model now. Except we didn't get any verdigris onto that one. We only got it on this one. But that's okay, guys. Look how close we are. Like, at this point, I'd be pretty happy just putting a real simple mosaic pattern on the floor and call it done. Yes, we both sense the time simultaneously, yes. Yeah, that's just it. When you get a rescue and their name just embodies who they are, then you're just like, yeah, just going with it. I could see that. Absolutely. All right, guys, so what we did today is we actually finished the crest. We weathered it out and made it kind of faded looking so that it looks like he's actually, you know, it goes with the whole verdigris and really beat up way that this guy rocks. Then we applied a brown wash over the lower legs so that we can, and allowed it to dry so that we could go back in. We started going back in with the dark green here so that we can start the verdigris process on the leg. We have to still do that on the other guy over here. I also used my brown wash and used it as a layering tool to build up more shadows where I wanted them. You can really see the drama here. Look at the highlight and shadow here, as opposed to just the kind of, it's, you know, kind of there over here. So you can see the light a lot more here than you can there. So that's what taking the time and doing some extra layering, not only with your dark green verdigris, but also your brown wash, can do for you, can really bring out the details really well. So, yeah, there's stuff. This, no, I forgot to do it, so I don't really care. I'll get to it or I won't. Yeah, that was the part that I forgot to do, was the vents here. When you've got this big a model, like that's where when we get close to the end, I make a list of stuff that I've missed or need to go back and do. If I care. It really depends on how much I care at that point for this one. He's been such a long project. But yeah, so there you go, guys, and we will be back tomorrow with the hair folk. And yes, it's Rhonda later today. So remember, we're like starting to bring up highlights on the face of our hair and on her other parts and make her look like, you know, an actual hair. So hopefully y'all tune in tomorrow and we can have some fun. So Bronze Golem says, bye everybody, in a Bronze Golem type voice. And I hope to see you all later. Have a good one.